And welcome back to another
Welcome
episode
back.
of the Mostly True podcast, where we promise that 51% of what we say is factual.
Because it's mostly true.
Mm-hmm. And all we
That's
need to
all
make
we're
that claim,
promising.
all we need to make that claim is 51%.
Legally, yes.
Yes, we actually do have a compliance department for anyone that's wondering.
Yes. It's me. We're small business.
Very small. But where was I going? Oh, today we're talking more about the romance.
Woo.
Valentine's Day just happened.
True.
And so, we're really talking about the composers that, that was their thing. This is their holiday.
This is their holiday. I thought I was going to burp, so I leaned really far away from the microphone. That's what that was. If you're watching it on video, I did something odd. Just wanted to jump out and tell you that's why. Yeah, today we're talking about the romantic era. How exciting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Do you like romantic music? How do you feel about it?
I would say it's maybe my top 2 eras of music.
I agree. Yeah.
I think it is really where we get a lot of the good stuff. And today we're talking specifically about opera. I know we're going to talk a lot about kind of some of the different opera styles that emerge in the Romantic era. And maybe we even touch on a little bit of history. We'll see.
Whoa.
We'll see.
Welcome to Mostly True. It's like a podcast.
I think I did okay in world history in high school. I kind of paid attention.
Did you take normal world history?
I took dumb world history.
I took AP world history. I was really a little bit too stubborn. I've always been too stubborn to admit to myself sometimes I don't have to take the hardest classes. I took AP classes. I took honors chemistry. I had no business taking honors chemistry. So I took AP world history, and that was probably the AP class I worked the hardest in. And it was simply because my teacher terrified me. Her name was Miss Oglesby. And she was really cool, and I thought she was a really cool lesbian. She was not a lesbian. But she rocked. She rocked my socks off, and I worked really hard. I think I got a 3 on the exam. It was really disappointing.
All of that work.
Yeah. I got a 4 on the AP literature exam, which is pretty impressive considering I didn't write one of the essays. So that means that the other essays that I did write were good enough to carry me to a 4. I wrote one of them about Footloose the musical.
You just ran out of time or what?
I just ran out of time. I was working my butt off writing Footloose the musical, an essay. And it was like relevant to the prompt. We were definitely supposed to write about Frankenstein or Wuthering Heights because the prompt was about like being othered in your community and the experience of that. And it was when we were doing Footloose the musical. So I knew all of the lines. And so I could quote.
So you could be lyrics. Like, when Ren says.
Yes. And I was like, written by, I knew the composer's name at the time and all that stuff. So I wrote my socks off with the Footloose essay. I wrote like 6 pages, something crazy. It was like a really good essay, I think. And then I wrote like a pretty decent other essay. And usually that's like a 3, like if you don't write one of the essays. So the fact I got a 4, I mean, I'm saying this like 8 years later, like I could be wrong about the scoring. I don't know. But anyways.
But still, to
I don't know
not
how
write
I went
an
on
entire
this
essay.
Tangent. But, AP classes. Yeah, world history. I worked pretty hard in that class. But it's a very broad view of world history. We don't really delve into the specifics of this timeline.
Like European history. I guess I know there was a European history class, but
Yeah, and the kids who took that class were like so smart, but I was like, I just simply can't care. I can't care. Sorry.
Sorry. Not sorry. But
guilty. Anyways,
Yeah. I
you
don't
did
think I
some
was
great
even gonna
research
go.
for this.
Yeah, we did a little bit. I did.
Mostly true. It's a good reminder.
Partly researched. Yeah. Mostly true,
Exactly.
partly researched. Yeah, so we'll go through that today and see if, we learn anything about
We'll
anything.
see. We'll see. Did you ever take a test and learn something while you were taking the test? Did that ever happen to you? You're like, oh, that is how that formula works. Okay. Yes, this is a great time for that to kick in.
There were definitely moments where it wasn't until the wording on the test that I actually understood something.
Yes. That's
Where it was
naturally
like,
where that occurred.
there were definitely moments where it's like, I did the reading, I swear, but I don't understand what I read. And then it's not until I'm like reading the question on the test that I'm like, oh, that makes sense.
I love school. I miss it.
I don't. I do. Sometimes I do.
I loved it. I had so much fun.
I enjoyed college a lot. I feel
Yeah.
like high school, there were definitely a lot of those classes where you're like, why am I doing this? I don't know.
Yeah. I
It
really
was
loved
sometimes it definitely felt like busy work.
oh yeah. I really enjoyed reading the Scarlet Letter though. Like I have I have more tolerance, I think, for some of the annoying stuff at
Your
times.
mom is a teacher. She probably
She
whacked
is.
that into you. So
Whacked.
whacked.
She'd be so proud to hear you say that. Whacked. It was certainly, yeah. But yeah,
She probably said, Emily, you are going to sit down and you are going to read and you're going to enjoy this book.
and I did. But now I like don't I haven't been reading as much. It's kind of bad.
See, I actually feel like that's kind of been my New Year's resolution. I've been reading more.
Ooh.
Or
Mine
trying
is to
to.
spill less.
That should have been my New Year's resolution.
That's my New Year's goal. Like it's hard to resolve to spill less, but I'm working on it really hard.
Literally, I cannot wear anything without getting a spill on it. And
Me neither.
at this point, I've accepted my fate.
Have we already had this conversation on this podcast? We might already have talked about this.
We might have.
But it's still true.
Here we are.
This will always be true for me. I'm a spiller through
This
and
isn't
through.
mostly true. This isn't always true.
This is a fully true. This is a 100% honesty. I am the spill queen, unfortunately. But I'm working on that. I'm working on changing it.
Literally, this past Christmas, my sister got me this like light blue quarter zip situation. And within probably the first hour of putting it on, I had spilled coffee on it or something.
Of course. I would do the same.
Yeah. But shall we? Shall we talk?
Shall we? Get into it.
So, I know we're kind of a couple composers into the Romantic era at this point. But as I was doing research, there were a couple things that I read that I found interesting. And I was like, oh, I should share this because I thought it was interesting. Especially kind of as both of us, creatives in our own regard, kind of like trying to write and compose and do the whole thing. There's definitely, as artists, that feeling of like the weight of everything that's come before you.
Yeah.
And what I thought was interesting as I was reading was the author was talking about how this era specifically was kind of the first time that composers were feeling this.
Oh.
And so it's the first era that they named themselves. So like previously with the Baroque era and the classical era, it was they weren't named them in the era that they happened. So this is kind of the first time that the Romantic era says, okay, we had the Baroque era, we have the classical era, and now we are currently in what they penned the Romantic era. The era of romance. This was the time when we're getting some really, really good art, lots of thinkers have, the Americas are starting to kind of pop off in their regard too. We have
Pop
like
off.
they're popping off. So, like uh uh all of the transcendentalism stuff is
Yeah, that's going
happening
on.
in
I love
America
it.
too. That's all, and all of these things are happening all over the world. Um, but a
And
lot of
I'm
the
loving the
composers,
music that comes out of this era. It's quite delicious.
um,
I really enjoyed singing music from this era too. It was really fun.
mm,
It felt like a treasure trove, like it was just like so rich in like
yeah,
fun things to sing.
yeah, it's really cool because composers, I think, for the first time, are like really being forced to find their own voice. Was
Yeah.
something that I read about too, where like previously the eras were kind of like evolving so quickly that the composers were kind of just like along for the ride in a way, almost, it felt like. And then the romantic period, now that they have this huge like history and libraries of music from the two very large eras that came before them, they are kind of being forced to, forge their own path. And so each
Yeah.
of the composers that we kind of talk about in the romantic era have very distinct voices, which previously wasn't totally the case. Like, I think you listen to a bunch of Baroque music and you're like,
Sounds baroque.
sounds Baroque. You're like, it could
Yeah.
be any of the Bachs. It could
Mhm.
be,
Yeah.
Vivaldi. Like a lot of them,
Oh, but Vivol yeah.
they follow this very kind of like, this is what we're doing. It's like a music of the era. And similarly with the classical to a certain degree, like Haydn and Mozart definitely follow very specific, the music goes where it needs to go or wants to go. And like,
There's like a lot of rules, and they're
mhm.
doing the rules.
And so the romantic time period is kind of the first time where they have to be like, the composers kind of have to do some self-reflection
Yeah.
and figure out figure out,
What do
how
I
do we
what do
stand
I
out?
sound
Who am
like?
I? Um,
Yeah.
and so there's definitely, even in letters and articles and things that were written by the composers at the time, they expressed this. They said, how are we supposed to write? Like, there's after Beethoven. Like, after, what do we do? What do we do
Yeah.
after Beethoven? Like, how can I be good? How can I do anything? Because
Yeah.
Beethoven is definitely kind of like going into the romantic time period. He's kind of like the god, the music god for all of these composers. They're all kind of looking to Beethoven as who is the lord of music of this time.
Yeah. I'm looking at like what was going on in literature at the same time. Okay, in literature, romanticism found recurrent themes in the evocation or criticism of the past. So similarly, looking backwards and being reactionary, this is a response to something. The cult of sensibility, with its emphasis on women and children, the isolation of the artist or narrator, and respect for nature. Several romantic authors such as Edgar Allan Poe, Nathaniel Hawthorne, who I do really like Nathaniel Hawthorne, based their writings on the supernatural, occult, and human psychology. Romanticism tended to regard satire as something unworthy of serious attention. Views still influential today. The Romantic movement in literature was preceded by the Enlightenment and succeeded by realism. That was me reading from Wikipedia. I'm citing my source. Wikipedia
There we
article
go.
on romanticism.
Yeah. Something else that I think is important to note that I know we've noted previously, but romanticism or like romantic era, this is also kind of the rise of the middle class in a lot of ways. Like, this is where, we talked about a lot of these conservatories are becoming pretty big, partly because like more people are able to have like pianos in their homes more than
Oh,
ever
yeah.
before. Whereas like it was a little bit harder. Like, you either had to be some sort of prodigy that was like taken in by a composer,
Yeah.
or you had to be royalty. And so you were always being taught. And
Yeah,
so
I
this
do
is kind of
mhm.
the period of time where like pianos are in households, kind of for the first time, it's more accessible than it's been previously. And so there's more, therefore, like there's more people that are like, oh, we can teach this now.
Yeah. I feel like I remember this was a shift in sort of who was participating in music, basically like what you just said, but like
Hmm.
before that it was mostly young ladies, young gentlemen from families with status who had
Hmm.
private teachers, who might have been composers or might have been musicians, etc. But now we're seeing like lessons in the home, kids are
Mm.
learning piano. It's becoming something they dread. It's becoming, like we're engaging in piano lessons now,
Yes. Yeah.
in a much more, like, accessible way,
Hmm.
which
Yeah.
is awesome.
So, yeah. And that's kind of what like has gotten us, if you ever take a theory class, it's really because of the work that went into this era.
Yeah. Yeah, also, quick plug, romantic architecture, also becomes, like, peak at this time. Like, Gothic
Hmm.
revival was coming back, like, I just think about, like, excess and, like, maximalism in a sense, like, moody maximalism feels very romantic era to me.
Mm, yeah.
That's how I think
Um,
about it.
well, because we're like 18th century, right? So this is also industrial revolution.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's
True, that's
a
true.
ton of stuff that's happening in this era. It's like a
Wow.
very big era for
Busy.
everything all over the world.
Change, rapid change, yeah.
Hmm.
Okay,
Um,
go on, yes.
yeah. So today we're talking about some of the big opera styles. One thing that I thought was interesting as well as I was reading was that um, we've talked about symphony. Symphony is big in the classical era. And while there's definitely some kind of famous symphonies, especially we talked about Beethoven has some really, really famous symphonies. But in the Romantic era, it's not a big thing as much as I thought it was before reading.
Yeah.
In my head, I was like, oh, symphony, that's got to be huge during the Romantic era. But upon further reading, I realized that not necessarily. Um,
Tea, sister.
yeah, so composers, they did a lot of opera. Um, they started kind of experimenting with different um, styles. Like we have, Strauss, who is kind of the king of the waltz. So he wrote a bunch of like symphonic waltzes.
King.
And uh, there were just a bunch of different styles. They're like composers that would write overtures to nothing. It would just be an overture as a piece of music, but not like for an opera. It would just be an overture. So, anyway, let's talk opera. Romantic opera, like we know about the Romantic era, things are getting much more touchy feely, um, very expressive. This is also a period of time that we're kind of like locking in a lot of music notation. There's less and less improvisation in the Romantic music. Whereas Baroque was like heavily ornamented. We know there was a lot of improvisation all the way through the classical era, up into Beethoven. And then kind of after Beethoven, there's kind of this cutoff, this fall off, where composers are starting to be like, we're notating our music as is. We're not leaving parts for
Oh,
people to
yeah.
improvise, which is another thing that I think is really interesting. Because especially nowadays, when we think about any sort of music that's, we're not writing ourselves or like improvising or jazz or anything, uh, I think, we expect it to be what is on the page is on the page. Like that's just kind of a
Yeah.
pretty, like the score is king in most cases. And it's
We're
so
not just
interesting.
improving for funsies.
Yeah, it's interesting that this is kind of that era that becomes the standard. This is when they're
Yeah.
saying, what's on the page is on the page. Don't mess with it.
Don't
So
mess with it.
don't mess with it. So, yeah, opera was, I think up until this point, it's been a big heavy hitter for music. Like every composer for the most part has worked on opera, and it still remains through the romantic time period a big a big deal. It's the thing that gets people to the theaters, that gets people in the seats, making money for a lot of these people and places. And so the first one, kind of the main one we're going to talk about today, is Joaquino Rossini, um,
Ooh.
the Italian
Divalicious name.
divalicious. So he was born 1792, died 1868.
That's
Um,
a decently long life for back
yeah,
then.
yeah, he lived quite a few years,
Good for
and
him.
yeah, so he was born in Italy and ended his life in Paris. So, like I said, kind of the
Ooh,
hubs for music right now. We have like there's some stuff happening, big stuff happening in Prague, Austria, and then we have Vienna is a big one,
always.
which yeah,
Love
and
that
then
place.
Venice, Rome, Italy, mainly Venice. I feel like is the big one, still heavy hitter for music, but Italy, a few cities in Italy are still big for music. And then we have Paris with the rise of some of these different conservatories in Paris. So Paris is becoming a hub for music as well. Um,
Wow.
so those are kind of like big heavy hitters when it comes to music. So him being an Italian composer really helps. He was the son of musicians. His mom was a singer. His father was a town trumpeter.
That's so fun. I want to be the town trumpeter. I don't know how to
Wouldn't
play
that
the
be fun?
trumpet, but
But why not?
yeah. Is it a required skill for the job? I can be taught.
I could be taught. I'll be a personality hire with a trumpet.
Yes, I'm fun. I don't have to play it. A lip sync.
You could. I'll be the fun. Yeah, I'll make it look more fun than the actual trumpeter for
Yeah,
sure.
exactly. Boring.
Boring. So one of the things that I thought was interesting as I was looking into his life was that, if we're going to talk some of the geopolitical, what's happening around the time of his life that is hard for him to avoid is the Napoleonic Wars.
Oof.
Um, so this was, I think, something interesting about his life is that, like, his father was imprisoned twice for various like
Ooh.
political activism during this time. Um, Venice, where he spent a lot of his time, parts of Italy were like changed, not ownership, but occupation four
Ooh.
times within his life. Um, so it was like this big thing where Austria and France were fighting for different parts of Italy. And so, this is something that as a composer, like he can't, you know, he's living through all of this,
Yeah,
which is interesting, um, knowing how that could could have affected some of his music.
definitely. Wow. What an intense time to be alive.
I know, like I feel
It's
like it would
pretty,
be so
yeah.
hard to try and be like, "Oh, let me go write some
Let me
music
write
really quick."
music. Yeah, totally.
"Oh, we just got we're property of Austria again."
I'm sure there was like a lot of violence going on too, if that was happening.
Mhm. Yeah, it sounds like a very crazy time to be alive.
A person. Yeah. I
Yeah, I
mean,
mean, 4 times within his lifetime, while he was working there, it, like, changed occupation. I think that's just
sheesh.
crazy.
We're headed that direction now, actually, in the world.
Yeah. Yeah. Not gonna lie, not too different.
Not that, yeah. Maybe that's why I'm having a hard
Interesting,
time being creative, you know?
maybe. But you know
Yeah.
what? Then you have people like this guy who, like, flourishes, it seems like.
Nevertheless, he persisted.
Persistent.
Persisted. Because it's usually nevertheless she persisted.
Oh, he persisted.
I don't know what it was.
um,
Yeah, that's pretty amazing though. That he
yeah,
was doing that. Good for him.
yeah.
So he wrote operas.
He wrote operas, a ton of operas, like crazy amount of operas. And one of the ways that he did this is that he shortcutted famously and like
Oh.
didn't even care. There were a bunch of different ways that he did this. He would reuse overtures. So like the Barber of Seville, which is easily his like most famous opera. The overture for the Barber of Seville, he had already used twice in 2 different operas before the Barber of Seville, and he just said,
third time using that's amazing actually.
uh,
Lazy.
yes. But also I think in some ways, just smart businessman, he knows, we know the landscape for a lot of
Yeah.
composers at this time that like, you know, why make things harder for yourself if
And
no one's really
honestly,
paying attention to the
most
opera.
people are not going to know. They
Yeah.
don't know. Yeah, they're not looking at the music and they don't
It's like,
know, they don't
unless you're a
remember.
diehard fan, they
Yeah.
don't have records that they're taking home and
They
listening
can't
to.
listen to this stuff in the meantime. Also,
So
I'm
they're
not really
probably
one
just
to
like, this
judge.
sounds familiar.
This sounds great. I just love it. I just love this song. When I took piano in college, I had this teacher and she didn't like me very much, and I also didn't like her very much, and she was pregnant. And that becomes important to the story. And I was going to have her all 3 quarters of the year, but then she had her baby in the 3rd quarter. Um, but I she didn't remember my name ever, and I was like, "Okay, I see her, like, every week, but whatever, that's not that frequent." But I knew her name.
Mhm.
Evelyn, I just remembered it. I had forgotten, but Evelyn was her name. I've definitely told you this story before, I think. But Evelyn, since she didn't remember my name, I was like, she's definitely not going to remember the song that I played for my final piece in the class. So I did the same song for fall quarter and then winter quarter, and she didn't even know.
And she was like, it's so good.
She was like, it was fine, because it never was good. It was just fine. But I passed. And
You
then she had
did.
her baby, and then I had a really good teacher my 3rd quarter, and I wanted to work really hard, and I felt dishonest to play the same song for a 3rd time, so I learned a new piece. Even though I didn't have to do that because he had not heard Andantino before.
I do remember Andantino, though.
Andantino has been a big part of my life. Anyone who knows me well also knows Andantino. We're sisters.
Every holiday party.
Yeah. And I can't really play it anymore. I can probably play the beginning, but I should practice it. It would be fun to bring on Dantino back and surprise everyone with that at a party.
Bring it back. Bring it back.
Bring it back. The people crave on
So funny.
Dantino. Anyways, sorry. Back to Rossini.
Oh, back to Rossini. Yeah.
A fellow shortcutter.
Shortcutter for sure. He would reuse arias, overtures.
He did
would
not care.
farm out to like people, apprentices, pieces of music that he was like, it's not too important, but I need music.
Write it.
So yeah, so he had ghostwriters that would work on it. But it meant that he was able to just like pump out a ridiculous amount of music.
Good for him.
One of the things that I also thought was interesting, kind of funny, that his earlier operas, they were okay. They weren't like crazy hits, but one of the ways that they were kind of made popular was that they were very popular among the gondola people.
The gondola people.
The
Would they
gondoliers.
sing them?
Yes, they would sing them. And so, like,
I love
everyone
that.
around Venice would be hearing these songs by Rossini. And, you know, he wasn't like crazy famous yet. But it
That's
was the
amazing,
gondoliers
actually.
singing them all over this town. It was like, you know, all of the gondoliers, I guess, really liked it. Maybe it was super singable for them or whatever. And so
Fascinating.
that was one of the ways that his name or his music got around so quickly.
That's epic, actually.
So I thought that was
I
really
love
interesting.
that. I'm just realizing that this chair that I bought from someone off of Facebook Marketplace is actually awful.
In my head, I just see you falling out.
Yeah, just falling out of frame. If that happens, it's the chair's fault. Ooh, the arms are staying up. Goodness, the conditions are poor. Oh my goodness. I'm pretty good at derailing us, aren't I?
I think it's actually way more fun that way. His big kind of claim to fame, his big opera is The Barber of Seville,
Oh,
which
classic.
may sound familiar because it's based on a play, question mark.
Probably.
It's either a play or a book. But The Marriage of Figaro is the second half. So Mozart
Exactly.
did The Marriage of Figaro, which huge, crazy success. And then Rossini comes along and he writes this one, which is based on the play that's the first part of that story. And then the Marriage of Figaro is the sequel.
Yeah. I think I brought that up in one of the episodes where we talked about The Marriage of Figaro. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's interesting that it feels like it was written backwards.
Yeah.
Or like Mozart
Yeah.
wrote part 2 essentially. But maybe
Weird
I guess it
choice.
would have been like maybe a well enough known play that everyone knew what happened in part 1.
I guess.
And so he was like, I want to be different and do the part 2. Or, I
Won't be
don't know.
different.
We'll be different.
He did. He's a drama queen.
He is a drama queen. Big drama queen. So yeah, but anyway, Barber of Seville, his big one. Interesting thing about opening night though is that so they had their opening night and they were actually being protested their opening night by, get this, a rival production. Not
of
like
the show?
No, just another production that was mad, I guess, that they were
Which
I
doing
thought
a
was
show?
funny. Like, it wasn't like a protest of the show. It wasn't like, oh, this is like, there was no like political or like content based protest. It was just a rival production
That
in
is
town.
so silly, actually.
So silly. So opening night was I think it was kind of a bust because between that protest and a stray cat getting loose on stage,
No.
it was kind of like, it was kind of just like cursed.
Yeah.
But then after that, after opening night, it was like, oh wow, this is actually really amazing. So it did really well.
Wow. Good for him. One hit wonder. Well, not one hit wonder, but like his big hit. He did his big one.
Hit. His big one. That was his big one. And then after that, he ends up moving to Paris.
Big is moving to Paris.
One thing that I thought was really interesting. So he was kind of like friends with, there's like this big impresario at the time. And it's really interesting because I'm trying to think of like the best way to tell this story. But essentially, so he's friends with this impresario, and then this impresario has a mistress, and apparently the mistress falls for Rossini, or I don't know how they end up getting together.
Okay.
But then he ends up marrying her, and she becomes his wife. So it's like this kind of interesting It's an interesting little situation there, because it's also like sometimes in these books it's like it'll be written as like it could have been a mistress, or like there were rumors that, or whatever. But this one was where it was like, oh no, it was well known that this was his mistress. And then
Ooh,
Rossini marries her,
that's
which
so
I thought
funny.
was interesting and tea. So
Definitely tea.
because especially if it was like well known that, oh, this is this man's mistress,
Yeah,
kind of like side girlfriend, side quest. And then Rossini's like, you mind?
that's crazy. Good for
So
him.
good for him.
Maybe she
I mean,
was tired
honestly,
of being a side piece.
and that's, I think, like, I want to say that's kind of how everybody wins, you know? I
Oh
want to say
yeah.
that, Rossini finds, this woman that he loves, and she doesn't have to be like the not wife or the mistress. Because also, I can imagine at this time that like taking a mistress as your wife would maybe be like, ooh, no, no. Um,
I'm sure that, once you're a mistress, you always kind of carry that
mhm,
label,
yeah,
unfortunately.
and especially in a situation where it felt so well known, like
Yeah.
it wasn't something where it was like, oh, there were rumors that she was this man's mistress. It was like, oh
No.
no,
Oh
she
yeah.
was.
That's her. That's
So,
his mistress. Yeah.
and maybe that's
Rough.
why and maybe that's part of the reason they moved to Paris. I don't know.
Yeah,
I
they
love to
needed to get
speculate.
out, get
They needed
out,
to
get
get away.
away. Love
Um,
it.
so yeah, anyway, so while they're in Paris, this is when he writes another one of his famous operas, maybe not as famous of an opera, but definitely a famous overture.
Mm.
This is when he writes William Tell
Classic.
with the famous overture. And that was kind of his swan song, which is really interesting because that happens um, when he's around 37. And after that, he doesn't write really again for the rest of his life. And he died 39 years later. So
That's
for,
not okay, wait, question. Is that the 1812 overture? I've heard it called that.
is it? It's the one that's featured in The Lone Ranger.
Yeah. But for some reason, like he probably didn't write that in 1812 because he died in 1868, right?
I think you're getting the 1812 overture.
I really thought they were the same thing.
I think they're different.
I bet they are. Oh yeah, Tchaikovsky wrote the 1812 overture. Edit this out. Edit it out.
The 1812 is
Mostly
the famous
true.
one. 1812
Please.
is
Overture. It's
think what we
15
have.
minutes long.
It's the one with the cannons.
What? My whole life, I have thought that these were the same thing. I thought I've definitely like in conversation used them. Apparently, I'm talking about the William Tell overture all the time, but definitely was like, oh yeah, William Tell 1812 overture. Like in my mind, I've been doing that. Well, okay, here's the reason why this is relevant. Zach, my boyfriend, has a cousin who had a baby, and he loves the William Tell overture. And we were
Or the
with the
1812
baby.
overture for some people.
Well, we were with the baby over Christmas. We're hanging out with the baby, and the grandparents are like, he loves this song, and they put on the William Tell overture, and I'm nearly positive that I went, 1812 overture. Dang, man. Anyways, the more you know. I learned something today. I can tell you that this podcast changes lives, and I'm humiliated that I learned that. I'm 26 years old and I have a music degree. That's what actually is more important. I have a music degree. It doesn't matter how old I am.
To be totally honest, if you had told me that and I didn't have Google at my disposal, I probably would have been like, yeah, you're probably right.
Maybe. Well, thank you.
I wouldn't
That's
have
really
questioned
kind.
it, especially with your confidence.
I was confident. I really was. I went in just swinging. Anyways,
but no, you're
thank
right,
you.
because they do have similar. There is something between the two of them. Like honestly, if it was played for me randomly, I feel like they have very similar auras to them.
How do you even look that up? 1812 Overture, similar to William Tell Overture.
Well, you can just listen to it.
Yeah, we're gonna go with that. That seems right. I'll do a comparative listening, but I got confused.
I mean, honestly, that kind of concludes what I had to talk about Rossini. I don't really have too much more. The only one that I was maybe going to talk about a little bit is we have Weber. And the only reason that I really want to mention Weber briefly is because we're talking about opera in the Romantic era. And his name was Karl Maria von Weber.
I think it's like Weber.
Weber?
Maybe it feels more right with the German.
I think you're right. And you know what? Here's a moment where I just pronounced a very important figure's name wrong.
It's okay. Mostly true. Edit
it out.
Exactly.
A note to the editor. Edit it out.
Take it out.
Cut this out. And it's funny because the AI it'll definitely be like, this seems like an area where you want to edit things out. And I'm going to say, no, keep that in.
You're wrong. Keep it. So charming. That's funny. Okay, what did he do?
Well, so he is the big reason that he's important is he is really a precursor to the like nationalist German opera that we'll get later with like Wagner.
Yeah.
Yes. Definitely a complex tapestry there. But Weber is the first one to really do the German opera thing, because also remember, technically what we got from Mozart when it came to German was a Singspiel. So we didn't quite get all the way to German opera from Mozart. So Weber was kind of the first one to do the full jump into the German opera. And yeah, so he was born in Germany, studied with Haydn's brother, Michael, quickly started doing opera stuff. Yeah, his big thing was in 1821, not 1812, 1821.
Tough.
The title of the opera in English was The Free Shooter, in German, Der Freischütz.
Probably.
That
something
sounds
like that.
Right. So, one of the things that was common with the German opera, or became more common, was kind of like reflecting these German folk melodies and things.
Ooh, interesting.
Lots of German legends. Forests are big in Germany.
True.
That's kind of the big thing. The thing worth talking about is just that he started that off. And we'll talk more about that later when we get to Wagner and some of the other bigger heavy hitters. But that's an important name to know just because he was kind of the OG when it came to that.
Yes.
Other than that, I think that concludes my part.
Your part.
What do you have to give us?
What, have you prepared an offering?
Entertain us.
Yes, I think that all sounds about right. I approve. Good work. Look, I made a weird craft.
That's what she brought. That's what you get to present for us today.
It's a fur cuff.
Okay, for anyone
I could have a fur cuff whenever I desire.
For anyone that is
kind
listening,
of delicious.
Emily has just pulled on to the screen a bright pink fur bracelet looking thing.
Yeah, that's better. Yeah.
That she is now wearing. very beautifully on her sleeve.
Yes.
So
And it gives
did you sew this?
I hot glued it.
I think the best part is that there is a sewing machine behind her left corner.
It's a prop. No, I do use it, but this one felt more like a glue project. Cuz I went back and forth on how to secure it, and I was like, "Hell, I'll just glue it." So that was the easiest option.
Yeah. Didn't want to, break out the whole sewing machine. That felt like too much.
It's kind of degrading as I've been putting it on and taking it off. It's like falling apart, stretching out. Because this fabric is super weird. The like fur fabric is very strange, and yeah, this might be a
So
limited wear.
what prompted
Well,
the
I want to look, I don't know,
it's
cool.
it's New York Fashion Week. So
It is.
this is your submission?
Yes. Yeah, this is my project. Another one of my goals for the new year, along with spill less, has been to wear more like fun, funky, costumey outfits. And this is the kind of thing that takes an outfit from normal to abnormal. So, anyways, yeah, it's a craft. I've never worn this around. It's only lived on my desk since I created it and brought it into this world. But I've
Since you
yet to let it
birthed it.
see the sun. We'll see if it
It kind
makes
of
it out.
it reminds me of when we talked about like the millennial gray and how
Yeah, more of
your
a
what
maximalist.
yeah, your philosophy is crap everywhere.
I don't think I said crap everywhere. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff. But look, all the trinkets on their trinket shelf.
True.
Yeah, everything has a place.
Yeah.
Mostly.
Mostly placed. We should do an outro.
This has been Mostly True.
The podcast where 51% at least will be accurate.
Kind of accurate.
Kind of, mostly.
Mostly accurate.
If you haven't already, go ahead and hit subscribe so that you
Yeah.
can listen every week to our beautiful, charming voices.
Jabbering
And
on.
if you don't think they're beautiful and charming, please stop leaving
See
comments.
yourself out. Yes. Knock it off.
Yeah, and for those that do not know, we also post a lot of our clips and things on our Instagram, which is Mostly True Pod at Mostly True Pod. So give it a follow if you're rad and cool. And yeah, anything else you want to add?
It's been a pleasure, as always. It's been fabulous. We'll continue. I'm excited about these like more special interest projects we're gonna do.
Yes, we'll definitely have to get a Hildegard on the books.
Oh yeah, trust. I'm gonna talk about her for an hour and a half without
Easy.
stopping. Yeah. That's without you saying a word. So
I will be
get
there
ready.
and I will just listen.
Make some popcorn.
That sounds good. But yeah, I hope everyone has a lovely day, night, whatever time of the day it is. And we'll see you next week.
See you next week. Bye.